Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and this video is going to show the fastest fully upgraded coupes in terms of lap time. We're quickly going to go over the slowest vehicles right now, and as always the position counter is in the top left with the best lap time the car achieved in the top right. This video only focuses on track performance, so if you're interested in top speed where braking, cornering and acceleration aren't relevant, check the link in the description for the top speed testing series, and if you want to know more information about this testing including the extent to which it's accurate and how useful it is for you personally, have a read of the full description as everything that you need is in there. So the Coupes class is pretty much the most unloved class, I would say, in the entirety of GTA. It's had only 2 DLC vehicles since the game was first released, and those are the 2 that we've seen. They are the 2 slowest vehicles in the class, and they're pretty much copies of each other anyway. You know, we had the Windsor and then the Windsor Drop. The Windsor Drop is just a convertible version of the Windsor, so apart from that they're pretty much exactly the same, and they're both at the bottom in 14th and 13th places. And really there's only 9 different vehicles in this class, as we've seen already: the Oracle XS and the regular Oracle. The regular Oracle is much quicker than the XS, the XS being the older version, but a lot of the vehicles in this class, there's 5 different vehicles in this class that are actually just variations of other vehicles, so there's only really 9 unique vehicles. Others are just, you know, cabrio versions or slightly changed in some way. So it is the most unloved class, and it's a big shame really, because the Coupes class also has some vehicles that you wouldn't necessarily consider to be a coupe, or coupe if you're from the US. You know, there's some 4-door vehicles there that always people think that, you know, they should be in the sedans class instead, and actually the lap times of some of those vehicles would suggest that they would be better fitted in the sedans class. But the class itself could be so much better with some of the vehicles that we've seen included in the sports class. There's a lot of vehicles in the sports class that are on this sort of pace. You know, a 111.5 here from the Felon GT. We saw a 111 from the Sentinel as well. There's quite a few vehicles in this section, or especially, that are all quite close in terms of the lap time that they get, but they are all significantly off the pace of the ultimate best, which we'll see towards the end. But there's a lot of sports cars that are around this pace as well, and considering that the top vehicle in the Coupes class is much slower than the top vehicle in the sports class, at least having some of those sports vehicles, I'm thinking things like the Alpha or the Rapid GT, you know, some of the lower down sports cars could quite easily have been put into the Coupes class instead. They would fit in terms of the way that the car is, in terms of the looks and also in terms of the speed, and it would just make it a much more interesting class. But instead Rockstar decided to put everything into the sports class, so we've got a sports class that has ridiculous amounts of cars and a Coupes class that is very much unloved and has only had, like I said, 2 DLC vehicles since the game came out, and that's pretty much equates to 1 new vehicle because they're just a variation of each other. So yeah, you know, coming into the top 6 here, we got the Sentinel XS, which gets a 1 minute 10.0. That is significantly quicker than the regular Sentinel, even though they're exactly the same in their stock forms. The Sentinel XS does get more of a benefit from the engine, the transmission, the turbo, things like that. That's what makes it quicker in this respect. And then we come on to the top 5, which are certainly in a league of their own. So we've seen things like the Cognoscenti Cabrio, the F620, the Felon GT, the Sentinel XS, all get very close lap times around that 1 minute 10, 1 minute 11. But as soon as we get into the top 5, we see a big jump in lap time here to the Jackal with a 1 minute 8.6. So that's 1.4 seconds quicker than 6th place. So really the top 5 are in a league of their own. But as we'll see, even 5th, 4th and 3rd places can't really take it to the top 2. So we had the Jackal there in 5th place, and then in 4th place we have the Exemplar. Still a competent vehicle, the Exemplar. It really does suffer from not getting a spoiler. Obviously, like I always say, adding a spoiler in Los Santos Customs does allow the vehicle to get higher cornering speeds because of its increased traction, but the Exemplar doesn't have a spoiler upgrade on it, and that's what really does hurt it. It's very good in its stock form when all the other cars don't get spoilers, but it just does lack in terms of cornering speed without that spoiler. Now in 3rd place, just ahead of it, we've got the Felon. This is the regular Felon, so much quicker than the Felon GT, which kind of makes no sense that a regular Felon would be quicker than a GT version, but hey, that's what it is. The 4-door version of the Felon is quicker than the 2-door, the Cabrio version, with a 1 minute 8.0. It is much quicker as well, and it does put it into 3rd place, but you could say that it's technically 2nd place because the top 2 vehicles are exactly the same, and I'm pretty much sure that you know what those are at this point. But yeah, from 5th place to 3rd place, we've had a difference in lap time of 0.6 of a second. So 3 vehicles separated by 0.6 of a second, which is pretty good. But then we have the jump from 3rd place to the top 2 is also 0.6 of a second, because in 2nd place we've got the Zion Cabrio, and then obviously in 1st place we're going to have the regular Zion. And as I always say, the Cabrio versions of vehicles on the whole are exactly the same as the regular versions of vehicles, so whether you get the Zion or the Zion Cabrio, it really doesn't matter. They are both exactly the same, and that will be shown in this tiny difference in lap time that they get, which can be put down to testing variation. So yeah, the big jump in lap time there from the Zions to the Felon shows how dominant the Zions are. In this class, the Zion is the one to have, as we'll see in the top speed testing video tomorrow as well. The Zion is a great all-rounder in general, and because of its insane amount of traction as well, it just dominates everything else in the class. And 0.6 of a second may not seem like much, but at these sort of lap times and on when pushed to the limit like this, it really does add up, and it does mean that the Zion is basically, if you combine the best parts of a Felon, a Jackal and an Exemplar together, you get a Zion. So it is the only one that you really ever need in coupe races, and that makes the races a little bit boring. And like I said, it would be so much more interesting if we had some of the lower end sports cars put into this class instead. Now I just want to point out the reason that I've been making a distinction between the Cabrio versions of vehicles and the standard versions, even though they're exactly the same. Like I keep saying, in the vast majority of cases, it doesn't matter whether you get a 9F or a 9F Cabrio, a Zion or a Zion Cabrio, they are exactly the same and they will give you exactly the same performance. But the reason that I've been making a distinction between them is because they are functionally different. There's a functional difference between the car in terms of the body model and the body shape of the Zion Cabrio, because it has that roof that can, go back on itself in comparison to the regular Zion. Whereas I don't make that distinction when it's just a livery change. For example, a lot of people ask about the Barty 801 and the Barty 801 RR. Those are exactly the same bikes, but it's just a livery change. The Barty 801 RR gets a little bit of a different livery. That's the only difference. So the difference between a Barty 801 and a Barty 801 RR is exactly the same as the difference between an RE7B with the Estancia livery and an RE7B with the Pegasus livery. Basically, there's no difference at all. They're exactly the same vehicle, they've just got a different paint job. So the same is true for rusty versions of vehicles, like the rusty Emperor or the normal Emperor that we're going to be seeing in the sedans video next. There's no difference between those vehicles, and essentially it is just a livery change. It's just a different paint job on the car, so I don't make a distinction between those two different vehicles. But when it comes to obviously vehicles like this with Cabrio versions and things like that, that is when I do decide to make a distinction, because they are functionally different and they are an entirely different model altogether. So that's pretty much it for the coupes class. Obviously, like I said, it's a bit of a shame that we do have such a small collection of vehicles in this class. It is one of the smallest classes in the game, and it has been given the least amount of love out of all the classes that we've ever seen in terms of DLC vehicles. It would be nice to get some more coupes, or just have a bit of class rebalancing to put some of the old slower sports cars into this class so they're more usable. But maybe I'll make a separate video about class rebalancing and things like that in the future. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, remember to read the description for more info, comment with your thoughts, like the video if you enjoyed or found it helpful, and obviously subscribe for more in terms of the testing videos. We're going to be doing obviously every single class we've still got to go through in the weeks coming, so in terms of top speed and lap time. So thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.